Tervetuloa tämän päivän RTVn erikoislähetykseen. Tänään meillä on vieraana Yhdysvalloista fyysikko Tom Campbell. Tom Campbell on esiintynyt tässä meidän ohjelmassa jo aikaisemminkin heinäkuussa, ja silloin tämä tehtiin myöskin suorana lähetyksenä, ja tämän haastattelun kieli tulee olemaan englannin kieli, ja sitten sen lisäksi niin tämä aihe ja teema koskettaa sitten nimenomaan tietoisuutta. Tom Campbell, welcome. You are on live in our show today. I just told you that you are a physicist who has visited our program earlier, and in first time we spoke with you about your background and those general things about your ideas and thoughts, but today we will have this theme about consciousness. So
okay.
It's very nice to see you, and I hope that you have been safe when this situation is what is it.
Yes, I've been safe. Good to talk with you again, Timo.
Well, it's nice to talk with you as well. But right now, I have a first question to you, and it's about consciousness. What is it? Are the humans only conscious beings? Does awareness work at different levels? What is the relationship and effect of consciousness on our brains and bodies?
Okay, well, first, no, humans are not the only creature that's conscious. I define consciousness as awareness that can make choices. So if we talk about anything that is aware of its environment, aware of itself, and if it gets to make free will choices. Now that's not hardwired choices. You know, some animals or things, even humans, have instincts, and some of their choices may be more hardwired than actually free will. But if a creature can make a free will choice, then it is conscious. So dogs and cats and horses and even bumblebees are probably conscious. Trees, maybe not. That depends. Though they have some very interesting things they do underground that makes them look like they're very clever. We don't know for sure whether that's algorithmic. In other words, just a part of their DNA. They just do it because that's what they do, or whether free will has anything to do with it. So trees, probably aware at some very kind of vague level, but don't make choices as far as I know. Now that may change with more research. So that's my definition of conscious. So lots of things are conscious. Rocks are not. You know, things that are inanimate obviously are not. And there's some animals, no doubt, that are just basically the only things they do are, you know, the stimulus reactions are just hardwired, then they're not conscious. So that's the first part of your question. And go ahead, and the other subsets, go ahead and ask them individually.
Well, this awareness, does it work in different levels? If we're talking about, example, humans and so on, what is your idea?
Sure, it works at much different levels and different capacities. So a dog, let's say, that's conscious doesn't have the same decision space, and that's the same array of choices that, say, a human would, or probably not even the same array of choices that a chimpanzee would. But it does have a certain amount of choices. So the capabilities are very different at different levels of consciousness. And I just wrap all that up into one term called decision space. That's all the choices that you are aware that you have, choices that you know about. Now, there may be choices you have that you're not aware of, but that's not part of your decision space. It's just the number of choices. Now, other creatures like dolphins, like orca, killer whales, and others have larger brains than humans, but they don't have as many choices. Humans have of all the animals, probably has the largest decision space. And part of that is the way we can use tools and manipulate things and build and construct. Think of all the things that a human might be able to do and accomplish, and all the things that a killer whale might do and be able to accomplish. Now, these are all sorts of choices that we're talking about. So you see, a human has, a lot more choices, a lot more things it can do, a lot more ways that it can affect other humans, other critters, the earth itself. We humans have even figured out ways to destroy the earth like 4 or 5 different ways. No other creature, can boast that kind of decision space. So our decision space allows us to be both destructive and fearful, and also constructive and caring.
Yeah, we have some professors here in Finland who actually talk about nature, how nature is consciousness, and how they are kind of wired to all other plants, what is in the forest. That, example, if you cutting the trees in the forest, then this information will go on the roots, and they are part kind of consciousness. What do you say about it?
Yeah, well, I would, as I just said, I'm not sure that I would say that the trees are conscious, but they're probably aware. And because I'm not sure that the trees make free will choices. The choices they make are interesting, and they're very complex, particularly underground in the root systems, interactions with fungi and bacteria and other plants. They certainly seem to have purpose, but they may just be, what do we say, hardwired. It may just be in their DNA to do those things. They may not be an aware choice, a free will choice. So I'm not sure. So plants might be conscious, might not. That depends on whether further research can show that they make free will choices rather than just algorithmic choices. And algorithmic, I mean, they're just hardwired. It's what their DNA makes them do. It's a stimulus and a response without any free will choice being made. Like when you cross your legs and the doctor hits just below your kneecap with a little rubber hammer and your leg pops up. That's not a free will choice. That's just hardwiring. If you palpitate or hit that spot with a hammer, your leg will jump, whether you have it's not that you think leg, jump, it just happens all by itself. That's what I mean by hardwired. It's not a free will choice, it just is hardwired into the system.
Oh yes, and some very sensitive psychics says that when you go to the nature, this energy what you receive from the nature are healing, and when people bring their own thoughts and energy to the forest, it can start some kind of interaction between each others. What do you think?
Yes, indeed that can happen, but it's not necessarily that the forest is doing something to the people directly. The forest is doing something to the people indirectly. So that means it's, for one, when you're in a deep woods like that, it's very relaxing. It's very peaceful. It's easy for you to feel like you're a part of the larger system. You don't feel so separate. You feel connected. And all of those feelings help you be more positive. They help you evolve the quality of your consciousness. So it's a very positive thing to go out into nature and kind of be one with all that is. That's a very, very positive thing. And no doubt that is a healing thing. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the plants and the bushes and the trees are healing you, doing something to you. It's something you're doing to yourself because of the integration and relaxation and connection you have to nature. And after all, you are, your body is a piece of nature. The human is an animal, just like any of the other animals. It's different than the other animals, but every animal's different than all the other animals. So when we get into nature, we kind of find our roots. And that helps us heal ourselves, not so much that knowledge somehow goes in and does something to us. I think it helps us heal ourselves.
Yes. Well, we have a question here that what is relationship between consciousness and its effect on the brain and our body?
Okay. Now, in my understanding of reality, our reality is a virtual reality. The body is just an avatar. It's a computed body, and that what we are is consciousness. We are the player of that avatar, and we make all the avatar's choices. See, consciousness has to make choices. So we make choices for the avatar. So we are consciousness. We are immortal, and we make the choices for the avatars that we log on to play. So I as a consciousness have logged on to Thomas Campbell's avatar, and I make all his choices. So that's that's kind of my model. So how does this work? Well, let me back up here. So the body is not primary. Consciousness is fundamental. Consciousness is the source. The physical reality, which has my body in it, that's derived from consciousness. That's part of a virtual reality that is being rendered by consciousness in order to give consciousness a better way of evolving itself. Consciousness is a system. It's evolving. It's lowering its entropy. That's how it evolves. That's what it does. And one way to say that is that it's raising the quality of its consciousness. Another way would be to say it's lowering the entropy of its consciousness. And when I say its consciousness, it is consciousness. It's a consciousness system. I call that the larger consciousness system. That's the source. Everything else is a product of that source. Mm-hmm. So if my avatar gets in an accident and I have a concussion and brain damage, then the rule set that defines this virtual reality, defines our physics, our chemistry, and our biology is defined by a rule set that is underlying the virtual reality. That rule set then says that with that kind of damage to my virtual brain, that my speech may be slurred, I may drag my left leg. That would be the result of the biology, okay, from the rule set. So now my consciousness isn't hurt. My consciousness, doesn't have a problem. My consciousness is just like it was before, but now it has to play a character, make choices for an avatar that slurs its word and drags its foot. So just like if you're playing a video game in some virtual reality like World of Warcraft and your character falls off a cliff and gets hurt, now you, the player, play a character that's been hurt, and that character can't do all the things it did before. So it's the same way. So there is no, the brain is a virtual brain, and the system never even renders a brain unless somebody cuts open a skull. Then something has to be there, so a brain is rendered. But that brain doesn't process anything, doesn't store anything, doesn't remember anything. All that's done in consciousness. The body and the brain are just virtual things, part of our virtual reality. So that's kind of the way I see the brain, body, consciousness thing. Consciousness is fundamental, the body is not.
Oh yes. I guess now you can see my face here because I
can see you now.
I changed this camera. It was wrong camera. Well, we was a little bit touching this consciousness of nature, and there is a little bit more about it, and it's a little bit open that what is the relationship, interaction, and environmental impact of our consciousness on nature, animal, other people, and our own evolution? This is second question.
Okay. Well, because consciousness is fundamental and the virtual reality is a product of consciousness. So, the mind leads, consciousness leads, and the body follows. So there is an effect that consciousness can, change things here in the physical, because the physical is really a product of consciousness. For example, we all know of the placebo effect. Placebo effect is if you believe that you're going to get better, you believe that the pain's going to go away, then indeed it will. The mind leads, the body follows. If you have an intention, consciousness, have an intention that the physical world will be a certain way, then that tends to change the probabilities that the physical world will be rendered that way. So consciousness modifies future probability. So this virtual reality is a probability model, and you can use your intent to modify future probability. So if you very, very much want it to be sunshiny on Saturday, then if you put your intent to that, and not just making a wish, but this intent has to be focused, it has to have low noise in the background, it has to be in the intuitive side of you, not in the intellectual side. The intellectual side makes wishes, but the intuitive side actually can modify things. So if you put your mind to it, and a lot of other people do too, then that raises the probability that the sun will shine on Saturday when you want it to, or rain if that's what you'd rather have it to. Anything that has uncertainty associated with it, like you get a lump on your neck, that lump could be cancerous or it could be benign. If you focus your intention on that lump to be benign, and in general, even if you're just a very positive person, then the probability when the measurement is made, that is when the biopsy is taken, the probability is going to be higher that it's benign because you are positive and you had positive intentions toward that outcome. So that's kind of the connection between what we find here and our reality and consciousness. So we are in three ways, we are creators of our own reality. One is the one I just mentioned. We can modify future probability. That means it's more likely for the world to be rendered in the way that we are intending it to be. Another way is how we interpret reality. This is a virtual reality, so a reality only exists in the minds of the players. See, if you take a look at the world of Warcraft, and there's lots of elves and barbarians and magic users and necromancers and all sorts of characters running around in that thing, but none of them actually exist anywhere. They exist only in the minds of the players. Okay, there is no world where these things run around. It's just computations. They exist in the minds of the players. And the player gets a data stream. That data stream is a bunch of light pixels on their screen. They look at all those little dots of light and they interpret it as rocks and rivers and trees and, and barbarians and elves and so on. They interpret those dots. Now, their reality is their interpretation of those dots. Their reality is the interpretation of that data stream. So if you interpret that data stream one way, that's your reality. You interpret it a different way, then that's your reality. So we get to create our own reality, not only but through our intent, but through our interpretation of the data. That becomes our reality. So that's an interesting idea because that means every person lives in their own reality, you see, but it's a multiplayer game. So a lot of the things that happen is we agree on them, we agree. I see you sitting in your office, you see me sitting here with some little flowers and grass behind me, and we both could agree on what we see. That's because it's a multiplayer. So, we share data. I'm sharing this background with you. You're sharing, your background with me. So we get to share data in a multiplayer game. That's the same way in World of Warcraft. There's multiplayers running around in there, and they share data. So they all see a similar map, and they interact with each other. They help each other defeat monsters, or they fight with each other, and it's whatever they choose to do. So we get to make reality based on how we interpret it. We get to make reality based on the choices that we make, because as we make choices, that changes things. When we make a choice, it not only changes things for us, but it changes things for other people as well. And when those people, like if I decide to marry Sally instead of Susie, well, that changes things for me, for Sally, for Susie, for other people that Susie knows and Sally knows, and other people that know me. And it just, ripples out from that choice. So as we make choices, we affect other things. So we get to modify our reality in some ways by the choices that we make. Mm-hmm. And the last way that we modify our reality, which is probably just a subset of the choices, is by how we behave, how we interact with other people. If we are very positive, caring, thoughtful, compassionate, then people tend to like us and they like to be around us. Mm-hmm. And, we have a lot of people that are very supportive of us. If we are a user, all we want to know is how can I use that person? What is it to me? If we have that self-centered attitude that we don't really care about anybody but ourselves, everybody else is just to be used for whatever we can get out of them, then people won't like us. They'll avoid us. They'll go out of their way, to walk around us and not be a part of our life. They won't want to be friends with us. They won't even want to be near us. Mm-hmm. So depending on, and again, that's the choices we make that reality. Now, there's a lot of things in our reality we can't change. That is, I can't change what you decide to do. Mm-hmm. Only you can do that. Mm-hmm. So if you decide just throw the switch and pull this plug and the interview is over, well, nothing I can do about that. I just take off my headset and go on and do something else, because you can modify, you can make that choice that changes things. So we can't do whatever we want, but we do have several ways in which we can modify, customize in a way, this reality that we find ourselves in. So intent is one way. That's how you can, it's how the placebo effect works, but that's also how mental healing works. You use your intent to modify future probability. So you use your intent to modify the health of a person, to have a higher probability of being healthier. Well, that's how voodoo works too. You can use your mind to, raise the probability that somebody will get sick. It works both ways. In general, if you are a positive person, a caring person, you're other-centered rather than self-centered, your life will be a happy one. Your life will be full of joy, peace, tranquility. You will feel satisfaction. In general, it'll be a happy, good life. On the other hand, if you are a person who is very self-centered, full of fear, negativity, always complaining, always saying, why is me? Looking for other people to do things for you, and try hard not to have to do anything for anybody else. What's in it for me? If you have those kinds of attitudes, then you're going to be a person who's full of pain, full of anguish. You will not be happy. You will find little joy in life, and your life will be a constant struggle, a painful struggle. You will not succeed well. And that's because we're here to evolve our consciousness. We have a job. That's why we're here in this virtual reality, to evolve our consciousness. And what that amounts to is becoming kinder. Not acting kind, but being kind. There's a difference. It's not about how you act. It's about how you are.
We have a saying for this kind of situation: when you have a rough day and you cannot be kind, then by nature, then you just fake it until you make it.
Yes. Yeah, well, faking it until you're making it is okay for a while, but some people just fake it and never make it. They just fake it all the time, and that's not a good solution. But if they really are focused on making it, then nothing wrong with faking it until you make it. But so many people go through life with that smile on their face, but they're pretty negative inside. They smile like that because that enables them to connect with people because they look happy, they look like they're positive, and then you get to know them and they steal your wallet or kick you in the knee or do something else, take advantage of you. You know, that's the worst kind that just fake it and really aren't interested in making it. They fake it for their own advantage. So in any case, that's why we're here, is to become love, caring, empathetic. That's the whole point of our existence. That's how consciousness evolves, by evolving toward lower entropy. And lower entropy means more order, less disorder, and more value. So that's kind of the point of it. So here we are making choices. And by these choices in this virtual reality, we'll evolve or de-evolve. So if we make good choices, we'll evolve. And when our avatar dies, we'll go find another avatar and get back in the game and keep making those choices, because it's not something you can do at one shot. Changing who you are, lowering your entropy, and becoming love is something that takes a lot of time, a lot of work. It's not an easy thing because you can't do it by acting. You have to be it. And that means changing who you are. And most people find that difficult.
Yes, they do. Next idea what I want to ask from you, that when we're talking about consciousness, and what you think when we take all of those masks away until you will find the source from your consciousness, what do you think about emotions, about thoughts, about your sensitivity skills and so on? Are those really consciousness, or are they just tools what consciousness use to express itself?
Okay. No, those are a part of consciousness. Matter of fact, one good way for anybody to know how they're doing, how are they evolving? How evolved are they? If you'd like a meter on your evolution of your consciousness, how close are you to becoming love? That sort of thing. Well, you just look at your emotions. And if you're feeling negative in any way, which means stress, that's negative, angry, upset, annoyed, unappreciated, all of these things are negative feelings. If you feel any of those, that's because you have fear. You wouldn't feel those if you weren't fearful of being inadequate, fearful of not being lovable, fearful of failing. There's lots of things to be afraid of. And those emotions are part of you. Those feelings are a part of consciousness. So yes, consciousness is not intellectual only. A lot of people who are very intellectual think that their intellectual component is the only thing, is consciousness, but that's not it. Matter of fact, in a Freudian model, you have the conscious mind and then the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind has things in it that the conscious mind is not aware of. Well, in my model of consciousness, the subconscious mind is really, can I say, it's an artifact of the fear. When you get rid of that fear and move toward becoming love, you don't have a subconscious mind anymore. You're perfectly aware of everything, including all of the instincts, and things that you have at that deeper level. Where Freud puts the id, the sexual and the hunger and all of those things. You're aware of all of that, and you're keenly aware of it. You don't have anything that you're hiding from. Everything is something that is part of yours. So you're just one whole consciousness. You're not broken up to the part that's aware and the part that's hidden. You only have that subconscious because of your fear. You're fearful. And the things that you don't want to deal with, the things that kind of get in the way and make your life uncomfortable, you stick that stuff down away from where your conscious, I shouldn't say your conscious, your intellect can't deal with it, doesn't have to deal with it. And that's the subconscious. but that's not really a fundamental part of consciousness at all. Consciousness is just one whole thing. So consciousness is fundamental.
Well, if we're thinking about, example, those Asian religions like Hinduism and Buddhism, they talking about consciousness, that it's just that part which observing the world and so on, and those thoughts what they have, they try to get rid of them by doing meditation and so on. So they are taking off those emotions and thoughts from the consciousness. They just try to keep it as observing the world.
Well, what that is about is that if you have fear, then fear is the opposite of love. So if you want to be a being of love, all you have to do is get rid of the fear. And what's left is you're a being of love. So it's the fear is that we're trying to get rid of. But that fear creates ego. And the fear also creates beliefs. And it's the ego and the beliefs is what the Buddhists are talking about. They want to get rid of the ego. So if those feelings, if those emotions have to do with ego, in other words, they're self-focused, the ego is awareness in the service of fear. That's how I define ego. So if you're feeling that ego, then that's what the Buddhists are trying to get rid of. It's that ego. It's that I want, I need, I want things to be this way or that way. That's what we get rid of. And we need to get rid of all the beliefs. A belief is something that puts you in a box. It makes it hard for you to actually see things, because anything outside of your belief, you'll discount. You won't, you'll deny it. You won't deal with it. So a belief just kind of walls you in from more information, from bigger understandings. And you have beliefs and you have ego because you have fear. So the Buddhists get rid of all the feelings and emotions that are tied to their fear, which means they're trying just to get rid of the ego. But if the feeling you have and the emotion you have is love and caring and joy, well, those aren't things to get rid of. Those are things to enjoy and to relish, so you don't want to get rid of that. So it's not just getting rid of emotion and feeling, although most people's emotions and feelings are about 90% ego. So, people just tend to say, oh, get rid of all your feelings, because almost all of that stuff's ego anyway. So that's why, they say those kinds of things. It's not precisely true, but it's mostly true about most people most of the time, that most of those feelings are just ego stuff and belief stuff. And yes, those things do need to be gotten rid of.
Another thing what they're talking about is try to get rid of this monkey mind, which is all the time looking for thoughts and having all the time thoughts. It's kind of stream of thoughts that it's all the time. You cannot actually focus on just the one thing until you will get something else on your mind.
Exactly. Yeah, I call that getting rid of the noise. Yeah, you have to get your consciousness can be noisy. That means if you have lots of little extraneous stuff going on all the time, none of it particularly productive. It's just yammering, monkey mind, just yammering all the time. Well, you have to let that go to where you can have a mind that's perfectly still and quiet. And then you can take that still, quiet, low noise mind, and the intention at the intuitive level, your intention in intuitive space can be very powerful. But first, you have to get rid of the noise. You have to have a focus that is very clear and very sharp and well-defined. And you have to have developed that intuitive side of you to be able to do that. People make a big mistake when they think that they can just train their intellectual side to do those things, but you cannot. Consciousness has two different ways of processing. One's intellectual, uses logic, and the other one is intuitive, which is strictly consciousness. It just is mind-based. So you have to work through the intuitive side of yourself. You have to develop those intuitive skills, just like, most of us spend our whole lives developing our intellectual side, logic, how to apply logic to all sorts of things. But none of us, except maybe those gurus and priests and other people, you know, maybe some of the monks, and most of us don't spend a lot of time developing our intuitive side. So we think our intuition is flaky. It sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. You can't really rely on it. It's not too accurate. But if you develop that intuitive side, it has access to all the information, to information about everything, and it can be just as accurate and just as reliable as the intellect, maybe even more so. But it takes time to develop that intuitive side. So that's the other thing, that the Buddhists tend to let the intellectual side go because that's full of ego and full of beliefs, and develop their intuitive side more, which is a good thing to do. It gives you big picture rather than little pictures.
Yes. One other thing when we was talking about this, how our consciousness could impact of the nature. There is one example when this Professor Erkki Lähde, who is Finnish professor, used to be 1970, 1980, he and one psychic who had that kind of skills to heal. They went to the forest, which was, there wasn't so much animals, there wasn't, it was kind of wasted. There was some problem in that forest, it was polluted and so on. And this psychic used his so-called mental power to purify this nature. And this professor was writing everything down what he did and make a kind of investigation research from that. And next spring, that place was full of little birds, and it was total changed. And this is the one idea that is this our consciousness or our good thoughts purifying our nature, or how do you think about this kind of situation?
Yeah. Well, it's all of the above. It is the consciousness using its intent to modify future probability. So if there were very few animals and not much growing, there was probably a reason why that was. And if that reason was primarily non-physical rather than physical, because consciousness, of course, is non-physical. Consciousness is information. Information is non-physical. Data can be physical, but information is non-physical. Information is the meaning, the significance of, let's say you have a book. Well, the book is physical, the paper is physical, the ink is physical, but the meaning that's in the book, the meaning of the words, the meaning of the sentences and paragraphs, that can only reside in a consciousness. The book itself is not conscious, and the book is physical, but that awareness of the meaning and the significance of what's written in the book, that requires a consciousness. So consciousness is non-physical. Okay? You can measure ink. Ink takes up space. Ink's a physical thing, but consciousness does not. Consciousness is non-physical. So sometimes if you go into a forest and you find a place that is like that, it's because something happened there that was very, very negative. Something happened there that was very, very ugly, and it kind of left that impression. And then maybe animals and even plants kind of shy away from it. It just doesn't feel right. It has a feeling about it that makes you want to go someplace else. But if that's a non-physical attribute in the realm of consciousness, that can be changed with somebody who is sensitive to that. Somebody who has a strongly developed intuition can basically clear that out and get rid of it, and then use their intent to make the place particularly fertile, to make it a very pleasant place, a very happy place, a very positive place instead. And then the animals don't get that sense of, oh, let's go someplace else. They're drawn to it. And you find all kinds of things that will grow there and come there and go there. So that's just the way our world works. So it's, again, the intention can modify future probability about a place like that. Mm-hmm. So we can do all kinds of things with our minds. We not only can heal ourselves, we can, modify how our biology works. For instance, if you are a person and you are very negative and you're self-centered and it's all about you, eventually you'll find that you make less and less serotonin. That's a neurotransmitter in the body. And when you get low serotonin, it makes you kind of depressed and grouchy and not very nice, maybe even a little paranoid, so the serotonin is important. But first comes the negativity. That negativity changes your avatar, changes the physical body to support what the consciousness is doing. So what the consciousness is doing is full of self-pity and full of anger and full of negative stuff. Then the body will start to change in order to more accurately portray or be a part of that consciousness. So the body starts making less and less serotonin because that fits the unhappy, negative consciousness better. Mm. And just the opposite occurs. If you are very happy and you're positive, then your body tends to, work in ways that support you being happy and positive. You make plenty of serotonin and you make plenty of endorphins and you are healthy. You don't get sick. Even if everybody around you is sick, has caught the flu, you don't catch it because you're very positive. The probability of you getting it is less than it is for other people. Your immune system is just stronger, you see, because you're a very positive person. So we have lots of things that we can do with our minds that affect this virtual reality that we live in.
Does this include also coronavirus?
Yes,
positive thoughts.
It does include coronavirus, yes. If you have a positive intent, then you can be exposed to it and never get it.
So
because
there is some research that Finnish people has been say that they are most happiest nation, and those researchers says that we have nature and everything, and that makes our happiness growing. And is this also, we don't have so much corona here and not so many deaths, only something like 600 and so on.
Yeah.
So is this one reason why we don't have so much?
That's the main reason, not just one reason, but that would be probably the main reason why it hasn't caught on there. If you're very positive, if you as a people are very positive, don't spend a lot of time with negative thoughts, don't have a lot of anger and unhappiness and stress and that sort of thing, then yes, you'd be less likely, you'd be less susceptible to that. And research will show you that people who have a lot of stress also get ill a lot easier, a lot more, and they'll say, well, high stress levels suppress your immune system. Well, yes, but those high stress levels are negative. That's negative stuff. If you don't have fear, you don't get stress. Life is okay. Even when it's hard, even when it's difficult, even when it's not the way you want it to be, that's okay. You kind of accept it. It's all right, it's fine. You get along with it fine, and it's not a problem for you. So in that case, you just don't have stress. Mm-hmm. If you don't have ego, then there's nothing to stress over. Mm-hmm. If you don't have beliefs, there's nothing to stress over. So sure, that's why the people who have stress also have poor immune systems, is because those two go together. It's the negativity in the stress, the body reflects that dysfunction and becomes dysfunctional as well. I mean, people who have stage 4 cancer where they only have 3 months to live, or Sometimes they'll have something that they only have hours to live, and suddenly the next day they're cancer free. There's no problem. It's just gone. Well, it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And it happens usually because somebody with an intent has modified that future probability, or that person themselves has finally given up worrying about it, given up stressing over it. And they just relax and say, okay, whatever, it'll be what it is. And when they stop feeding it, then it can go away.
Well, I have to say that a few weeks ago I was interviewing one guy in an online show in Finland here, and this guy had that kind of illness, and he just thought that it cannot come to him, and he was decided that he's not going to hospital, and he just continue his life and be happy mind and don't think about this illness, and after 2 weeks hospital was calling to him because they got those blood examples and said that he should come very soon to the hospital because he's in danger, his life is in danger. And well, he came and they took another blood example, but everything was gone, and there was nothing. And he was so sure in his consciousness that he doesn't have it, and if there is something, it will go away. He was so sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that has to be genuine, though. You have to be authentic. If you just are wishing that it would go away and you just really want it to go away, that's all intellectual. That won't help. That won't make it go away, because that's not getting rid of the fear. All that's doing is pretending to be strong, pretending that you want it to go, that you're not I'm not upset, whatever's okay with me. But if it's all intellectual, then it doesn't have any effect. It has to be sincere from the center of you, from the being level, and then it can change things. But it's all a matter of probability. What it does is it changes the probability. So it doesn't mean that if you do this, cancer must go away. It's just, if you are this way, if you are positive, then the probability of that cancer killing you just becomes smaller. So it's not a matter of if you do this, that'll happen. If you do this, you will change the probabilities.
Well, it seems to be that when you get this kind of, that you are so sure about that, it might be that it comes from this being level, this information through the intuition, and that makes you so sure.
Yes, exactly.
Well, interesting. If we're thinking about human relationships, and if we're thinking about that we have all the time some kind of drama that we are trying to controlling each other's, people who are very sensitive, they can even feel that kind of energy in their own, inside of their own mind, or how to say it. So everything what we saying or feeling is kind of energy what is controlling, can make effects to the other people. Or what do you think?
Yeah, well, energy is just a metaphor. There really is no energy. There's no light. All these things are metaphors. Everything is information. It's a virtual reality. So everything is information. Now, energy is a metaphor we have for something that can change something else. Okay, so if we think in terms of I can use my mind to change somebody's health, or something like that, then we say, that's energy. So we're using our energy to fix something else. But energy is just a metaphor. It's all a matter of probability and information. So yes, we affect each other. Every consciousness is netted with every other consciousness. And when I say every consciousness, I don't mean just people. I mean dogs and cats and bumblebees as well. Every consciousness is on the net. And you can open and close your connection with your intent. So it's just like the World Wide Web, where there's billions of websites. They're all interconnected. It's all on the net. And if you want to look at a certain website, what you do is you type in that URL and that website comes up. And if you don't want to see that, you just click the little X in the top right corner and it goes away. Well, we're like that too, except we don't type in URLs or click little X's. We use our intent. With our intention, we can open up a channel or close a channel. So people who are automatically very open, okay, they have a lot of empathy. They're called, sometimes they have so much empathy that they can't stand it. They get everything, they hear everybody talking, everybody's problems, everybody's unhappiness. They can't even stand to go into, say, a crowded store because it's just so much bombarding them all the time that they find it difficult, particularly if there's people who are upset and angry and have a lot of emotional stuff. So they get all those. They're called empaths. They get all this stuff and are bothered by it because they don't know how to turn it off. But if they develop that intuitive side a little, they can turn off any of it. Any channel can be turned off. Mm-hmm. Any channels can be turned on, or you can turn off and on groups and types of channels. Mm-hmm. So they could go in that store, turn everything off, and it'd be like they were in there by themselves. It wouldn't, as far as the psychic energy goes, with quotes around energy, the psychic, it's not really energy. It's just your ability to control the information that that comes to you in your data stream. Mm. So yes, people get connected to each other. People change, exchange information, telepathically communicate. And we do this all the time with people. Mm. We communicate telepathically. We just don't know it. We're not aware of it. But we're doing it. Some people we really just like for no good reason. We just like them. Some people we really don't like. We just see them standing over there and we don't like them already, or we really do. We want to get to know them. A lot of that is because of the telepathic channel that we've got going on in the background. Mm. Now, once you develop that intuitive side, then you can do that you can open that telepathic channel anytime you like. Have conversations with anyone you want to. Now, if they are not also open, they won't hear it in their intellect, but they'll get it just the same in their intuition. They'll think it's coming from inside their own head.
What do you think about
telepathy is?
Please finish what you were saying.
No, that's all right. You go ahead.
What do you think about human consciousness? Does it developing, or is it something else? Because I'm just wondering that there is two different. There might be many ways to see it, but some people say that everything is on us. We just have to remember who we are. And some people say that we are developing ourselves to better person and so on. What is your beliefs and thoughts?
Well, we have potential. When the people who say we're already totally developed, we just need to remember it. Well, that's not actually true, but it's got a lot of truth to it in the sense that we have potential. We do have potential to be beings of love. As consciousness, that we can evolve to be that. So that is possible for us, but we have to earn it. We have to develop that. We have to make choices. We have to evolve to become that. So no, we're not it already, but we do have that potential already. Yes, the potential is in us to become very much like the source, to become a being of love, to have all of these, have all this information available to us, to kind of know what's going on everywhere. We can do that too, just as a source can do that. But it's our potential. It's not something that we have earned yet. We're not ready for that. You have to grow into it. It's like you could say, you could look at a 3-year-old child and you could say, well, they have the potential to be a great scientist or a famous brain surgeon. They have the potential to do all that. Mm. Yes, they do have the potential to do that. And you could say all the potential's in there. Everything they need, they've already got. All the potential's there. But they have to earn it. They have to evolve to it. They have to, learn, grow, and become it. That's what we are doing. We're learning, growing, and trying to become it. But the potential's innate. It's in us. But we have to actualize that potential through our choices. And that's what we're here for. That's why we're in this virtual realities, because here we have choices with very strong consequences, which makes a good school. Otherwise, if we didn't have this virtual reality, it'd be like a lot of individuated units of consciousness all in a big chat room. We'd be chatting with each other, but there really wouldn't be many consequences. But we come here in this virtual reality, and there's lots of very strong consequences to the things we, to our intentions, and what we do creates consequences, not only for us, but for other people. So it gives us a great learning environment to be in this virtual reality.
I guess it was Jiddu Krishnamurti who said that if you want to achieve something, okay, you have to focus all the time, but you have to think that you are already gained it, that you are already there, that you see yourself, that you are already in the source, and so on. And it seems that you are also thinking about similar.
Sure. What he's saying is that your intent of your consciousness modifies future probability. So if you see yourself as already there, then the probability of you getting there is higher than if you don't. If you see yourself as, I'll never get that, I can't expect to get that high, then you're self-defeating, and you lower the probability that you'll ever get there.
Okay, well, we can go forward. I have this question number 6, and no, 6 and 3, sorry. What do you think about collective consciousness? What is it, and what is interaction of our individual consciousness with it? What are dimensions of collective consciousness?
Okay, collective consciousness is basically a vector sum of all the people who are in that collective. Now, what I mean by that is if you in your mind see that you are a member of a particular group, now that group may be the human race, or it may be your family, or it may be your country, or whatever, it could be where you work, your factory or your business. So if you see in your mind that you are a part of that, you accept that, then you are part of that collective consciousness. So any group, so you can have, you can be part of many groups. Let's say you do work at some place, you work at some particular factory someplace or some business, and and you see yourself as a part of that, then it's the vector sum of all the individuals who see themselves as belonging to that group. That makes the collective consciousness. Now, that means that when you join, you change the collective just a little bit, because you're just one and the collective is maybe hundreds or thousands. But that collective also changes you. You kind of connect with it. You're a part of it. So if you go to a place where everybody wears white shirts and red ties, that's just sort of the uniform. Well, pretty soon you're going to start wearing a white shirt and a red tie too, just because you're part of that collective consciousness, and you'll begin to see the world the way that collective consciousness sees the world. It will affect you. Okay, it's the same effect. Let's say we have a mob. A mob is a bunch of people who are all angry. They're all upset and they're all angry. And the mob will act worse than any individual in the mob. You take any individual out of that mob, and he'll probably be a better person than the mob is. That's because that mob, that anger in that collective consciousness called the mob, creates more anger in each of the people, which makes the collective consciousness more angry, which creates more anger in the people. And it just, keeps growing like that until the mob is really mindless. It can do horrible things. It's mindless. And you do the same thing on the positive side. If you are in a group of people who are all very grown up and very full of love and caring and have very little fear, no egos, no beliefs, then you just feel better when you're in that group. You feel lighter, you feel more full, you feel happier. All those things that weigh you down and worry you just kind of disappear. It's the opposite of the mob. That's collective consciousness. So let's say it's a nation. You're part of a nation, Finland. And as part of that nation, you see yourself as a Finn, then that's a collective consciousness. Jung, C.G. Jung, he called those archetypes. Archetypes are just collective conscious. But archetypes, can be at any different level. So can collective consciousness. If you're in a family, and that family has a real strong thing that is that family. Maybe in that family they all make shoes, or they all, are very, very strong, or they're all very athletic, and they're always going off and, hiking on 50-mile hikes, with 100 pounds on their packs and things like that. And that's just the way that family is. Well, then they have a collective consciousness, and they all kind of rise to fit that. They fill out those expectations. It tends to make them be that way. So collective consciousness is something that you affect it a little bit, it affects you more. And the longer you're in it, the more it'll affect you. And the more you feel like you're a part of it, the more it'll affect you. So you could work at that factory where everybody wears the white shirt and a red tie, and you don't see yourself as a part of that. I'm not part of that factory. It's just a job. I just work here because I need the money, but I'm not like these other people, and I don't belong here, and I don't see myself as, as a part of that. Then that collective consciousness won't affect you because you're not in it. You did not, you don't see yourself as part of that group. So even though you work there at that factory, you're not part of their collective consciousness. You're outside of it. So it's something you voluntarily join because you see yourself as a member of the group. So collective consciousness is a very significant thing. I just did a course a little while ago where I taught people how to develop their intuitive sides. I taught them how to communicate telepathically. I taught them, how to remote view, how to heal, how to get data out of databases and things like that. And just that group of people formed a collective consciousness. They called it a bubble. There was this bubble in the group. And pretty soon, everybody was kind of feeding everybody else as far as their excitement, their interest, their progress. Things just start happening in that bubble. And that just was a bubble that was created just during the 5 days of that course, you see. And then if they all go back to their separate lives, that bubble then disappears because they're no longer feeding it. It's gone. They don't see themselves as part of that anymore. That's why you can go to one of these training courses and get all psyched up and you got it, you understand, yay, let's go. And then a month or two later, it's you're right back where you were before. You get caught up in that bubble and that bubble disappears, you see. A sporting event, you go to a big sporting event and everybody's excited and they're on their seat. And part of the reason that that's so exciting being there as opposed to just watching it on TV is because you get to be part of that collective consciousness. That enthusiasm, that excitement is there, that it just affects you at an intuitive level. So that's what collective consciousness is. Is something that we create. Even 2 or 3 people can create a little collective consciousness just among them.
Yes, I understand this very well. What do you think about where this, if you're thinking about where this comes to us, is it intuitive level where this connection to the collective consciousness comes?
Sure.
Or is it somehow some kind of sub-level, sub-mind, or how? What do you think?
Yeah, there really is no sub-mind. That's just the stuff we don't want to deal with. Yes, it's intuitive. It comes from the intuitive side. I call that the being level side. That's who you are at your core. It's the intuitive side. And that's what I said we need to develop. Most of us don't spend much time developing it, but you can develop to be very accurate and very reliable, such that it's always right. Your intuition, speaks the truth and has a huge database to draw information from.
But this intuition, does it have many different channels? If you're thinking about that, one is like a personal level intuition, it goes to the being, and one channel goes to the source. And is this intuition just a channel between 2 different things?
Well, No, it's not that so much as it is the consciousness has just two ways of processing information, two separate ways it processes information. One way is intellectual, the other way is the intuitive side, okay, or the being level side. So it's just the way consciousness interacts with what's outside of itself. And for that matter, even what's inside of itself. It's just the way consciousness connects to information. It can connect with information these two ways. The intellectual side has a wonderful tool called logic. And it's a very precise tool. But the problem with logic is that you need a lot of information. You can't make a deductive, logical choice unless you have a lot of information. So you have this precise tool, but very ratty information that has a lot of uncertainty in it. Like, again, should I marry Sally or Susie? Well, I can't logically come up with an answer about that because I just don't have enough information. And everything that's really important in my life is like that. I can't use the logic to get there because I don't have enough information. So it's got a precise tool, but ratty information. Now, on the intuitive side, it's just the opposite. The intuition has all the information because in consciousness has access to lots of information, everything about everybody in every circumstance. So there's all this information. But though that information is accurate and reliable, the tool to get that information is uncertain. It's ratty because it requires us to get it with our consciousness, which means we have to have low noise, we have to have good focus, we have to have all these things. We have to not be, thinking other thoughts. We need to have developed that intuitive side of our processing for our consciousness to a good level. So that's the way it is. So you can have your intuition can tell you about what's wrong in your own body. Your intuition can tell you what's wrong in somebody else's body. Your intuition can tell you what somebody is feeling, what their emotions are. It can tell you their health level. It can tell you how evolved their consciousness is. It can tell you anything you want to know. It can go back in history and it can go into the probable future and look at things, gather information there. So it's got all the information, but if you just aren't quite in control of your intuitive self, if that's kind of flaky, like it is with most people, then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's not that the data out there is not accurate. It's that people are not very good at accessing that data because stray thoughts, things come out of their mind, that kind of thing just gets in the way. Or the intellect tries to jump in and do analysis with that data. Well, that'll just blow it. Those two channels are separate channels, separate ways that it processes. So the intellect has to stay out of the intuition's way. But when you learn to develop both sides of that processing in consciousness, now the intellect and the intuition work really well together. When the intellect needs more information to make a good logical conclusion, the intuition can just go up, get the data. And, so they just work back and forth. And when the intuition needs some logical processing, the intellect does it for it. And they become good friends and work with each other. And each one knows the strengths and weaknesses of the other, and they just share. And now you're a whole, well-developed, balanced person. Most of us are not. Most of us are very intellectual and have very poor control over our intuitive side. That's because that's our culture. That's what our culture does. But the only people that have fairly strong intuitive sides are right-brain people, and we call them space cadets, and we give them other names that are not too positive because they kind of often seem to be lost and don't know what's going on, but they may be connected to their intuitive side, or they may not be connected to either side.
We have here in Finland one famous researcher, female researcher, Asta Rami. She has made a book about the intuition, and she says that there is three different kind of intuition. One is based on instincts and so on. And one is that you are experienced. I mean that you are a very you are expert of some topic. Example, doctor who has do work 10,000 hours and have an expert intuition. And then there is this third dimension intuition, which goes way back to the source. That it doesn't stay in this world, what we see here, but it goes outside of the box, if we say it this way. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I'd say it's all just the same intuition. It's not really three different kinds of intuition. Intuition is all one thing, but it's three, you can break things into all sorts of, you can break things down into subsets. So you could take and say, well, people often, access their intuition in these ways, way one, way two, way three. Well, that's true. That's kind of the typical way people do that, but it's all one set of data, one thing. So when you develop for one, you develop for all three. So they're not really three separate kinds of intuition. They're just three different ways that people tend to get intuitive data. So if you get 10,000 people and analyze all of the intuitions they have, then you break those up into categories. And you could break them up into 10 categories if you want to take those three categories and each break them in half, and then break those halves in halves again, and make it define it more and more. So the number of categories are not fundamental. They're just notional. She decided to break it into three. She can take any one of those three and divide that into subsections. So
I guess
all one intuition.
I guess there was one reason why she did it that way, was that she was thinking about what kind of intuition is most accuracy, that this information what comes is most accuracy, that it's very exactly information. And she said that okay, this when you are an expert of something, it's quite good by its accuracy, but then this third dimension, which comes from the source level, outside of this world, is most accuracy, most clearest, most best.
Yeah. I can see why she would say that, but it's still just all one thing. It depends on what you're doing and what kind of information you're getting. If you're an expert and you understand something, but just don't, it's like you have all the pieces of the puzzle except one, and so you're thinking about that one, and how do you get that? Well, that will come to you intuitively. That's what that one is. Well, that's because you're an expert and you knew so much about it that piece falls in. So that is one way that we use intuition. But we also can get things that are just, like you say, out of the box. They have nothing to do with this world. But all of it can be accurate. But what we find that most people who don't really have very well developed intuition, mostly we see that it's accurate when people are experts because they're real close to the answer anyway. They just need the connections. And that then often turns out to be right. Authors use that, scientists use that. Big breakthroughs almost always come, from intuition like that. But then you can go out and look at somebody's health body and diagnose them and see what's wrong with them. And that is nothing physical. Or you can look and get information about the past. What happened here? What happened there? And that all of it can be accurate. Any of that intuition can be accurate. It's just where you're the expert, it's much easier to be accurate because you're only looking for the piece that's missing. Whereas you go get something out of a historical database, that's more prone to inaccuracy because your intention has to be very clear of precisely what you're getting and precisely where you're looking. Otherwise, you'll end up with something else. So that's a little harder, but you can. It's not that you can't be accurate in those others. You can. It just takes a little more effort and a little more training to be accurate in them. But the data is there, and the data is accurate Some of it's easier to do than others. So I would agree with her that if you're an expert, that's a little easier to do. If you're not an expert and don't know anything at all about something, well, it's likely you're going to get wrong answers because your intellect's going to jump in and start guessing and get in the way and mess you up. So, one intuition, all can be very reliable and very accurate, but some of it is easier to get to than others. Some of it requires more. It's just like the intellectual stuff, in our intellect. Most people can be rational most of the time, but if it takes somebody who really studies to be really good at logic. Those logic puzzles that that are really hard to do, you have to figure out what the logic is. Okay, you can study that and get good at it, but you have to study it and you have to practice it and you have to do it over and over again. Like people who want to become lawyers, most lawyers, the tests that you have to take to become a lawyer are logic tests. That's the kind of thing they do. So if you practice that, you can get good at it, you see. But to the average person, if they had to go do a logic puzzle, they wouldn't do very well. They wouldn't get past the first part or two because they just haven't practiced much. Well, it's the same, say, with so the logic comes in different degrees of difficulty, and so does the intuitive side. There's different degrees of intuition, but it's not that this kind of intuition is not as accurate as that kind. Intuition's intuition. It's just different applications of that intuition. Some are more difficult than others, like applications of logic. Some are more difficult than others.
Yes. Well, about collective consciousness, and you thought about this example. If you are with a group who has a white shirt and so on, soon you will use by yourself as well that white shirt and so on. Good example in history was Second World War in Germany, that there was this guy Hitler who came to the control that place and this country, and this kind of negative energy was going in German, even for those people who wasn't so bad in at their own will. I mean, in presence, their own being wasn't so bad, but they was exposed for this negative and hate and everything those what was Hitler was representing. That was collective consciousness, isn't it?
Sure, that's collective consciousness. Yeah, if you are caught up in a mob, you tend to start acting like the mob. That collective consciousness affects you. You have to not be a part of it, not be a part of that group, then it doesn't affect you as much. So yeah, it does. That's collective consciousness. It can help make you more angry, or it can help bring you up and make you more caring.
Now we are presenting this kind of situation in the world that this COVID is everywhere and people are so afraid about it, and this fear is going in collective consciousness and its effect to so many people. But are there any kind of ways how we can avoid to being infected about this kind of collective consciousness?
Sure. Yeah. If you have a strong understanding of consciousness and what it is and what you are and so on, then you're aware of all of these things. And when you're aware of these things, it's much easier to deal with them profitably and not get caught up in them. When you're just going through life and don't have any clue about what's going on, and what reality is and how does it work and why you're here, and if you don't have any clue to any of that, then stuff just happens and you become a part of it. You get sucked up in it. And so the first thing I'd say is understand it. Understanding is very helpful, because then you can put things in their proper places and you don't get caught up in things that, you recognize that as propaganda, or you recognize it as the collective consciousness and you don't want to go there. So you kind of exist outside of it, if you will, because your understanding is better. So that's one thing you can do. But the whole point is, don't be negative. You see, okay, COVID-19's around, but don't let that frighten you. Don't be negative. Just accept that is the way it is. Be smart, do the smart thing, but don't be frightened. Don't be fearful. Stay positive, and it won't bother you. You'll be part of that collective consciousness that's positive, not fearful. Don't buy into the fear, but yes, fear creates more fear. So if you're around fearful people, then you'll become more fearful. And if you read fearful stuff, like on the internet, and you're reading all this stuff, it's all about fear, conspiracy theories, fear, 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 you will start to get sucked into that fear and you will become more fearful. So if you're aware of that, you'll look at all that fear stuff and you'll just kind of push it aside. No, that's not for me. I don't want to engage in that fear mongering. So just being aware is the ticket that keeps you from being caught up in that sort of thing. I'm going to have to go pretty soon, TiVo.
Okay.
I have some things I needed to do at 2, but that's all right. We slipped past that a little bit, but I'm going to have to go. But we can do this again if you like.
Yeah, of course. Perhaps last question for this.
Right.
Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. What do you think about when we're talking about consciousness and our planet? Does our planet has own consciousness, or some celestial bodies, example? And are those planetary consciousness connected and interacting with each others? And perhaps what is the role of the sun in this whole thing?
Yeah, no. Remember, my definition of consciousness is awareness with a choice. Okay, so the planet, as far as I know, doesn't make free will choices. So I would say the planet itself is not conscious, but obviously the planet has a collective consciousness. It has a collective consciousness that's the vector sum of all the consciousness that are on it. That includes the dogs, the cats, and the bumblebees. All consciousness then is a part of the collective consciousness of the earth. And that collective consciousness could interact with other collective consciousness as well. There may be, but now there is no consciousness, I suspect, on a sun, because that's really a hard place to live. It's kind of hot, there. So probably not a lot of conscious things there. It's just everything there is algorithmic. It just happens because it happens. It's the nature of the rule set. So that's just part of the rules here. So no, I wouldn't think that all the celestial bodies have their own consciousness. The earth has its own consciousness and that sort of thing. Earth does have a collective consciousness, no doubt. Because it's, if you in your mind feel like you're a member of the earth, you're a member of this globe. You belong here, and more people think that way now. They think more globally. Okay, this globe is the home of all of us. I'm an earth person, and the environment matters, and what we do with this earth matters. Well, that then becomes part of the collective consciousness of that earth. It reflects that caring.
Yes.
So that's there, but no, I don't think that the bodies all have their own consciousness and they're interacting with each other and communicating and doing things, because that's not how I define consciousness. I define consciousness as something that has to make free will choices.
Yes.
And I don't see the free will choice opportunity there. I see the planets and the suns and so on just as parts of the rule set, just like this body of mine's part of the rule set.
There was NASA's research about Song of Earth. Have you heard about it? You have been working in NASA, I believe. And,
I worked in NASA. Son of the Earth.
Yeah, that was kind of a thing what was Earth making in a space, and some people think about that maybe that is also kind of communicating with other planets, and just wondering that what you say about it.
Well, according to the rule set, everything is in touch with everything else. I mean, there's particles and radiation and things leave one and go, everything is kind of connected, right? There isn't anything that isn't connected. Everything somehow connects to the whole. That's true. Light comes off the earth and it spreads out into space and eventually comes all over the universe. And the same with all the other stars, that light comes here. And we're all connected in ways. So I can see that, but not in a consciousness, not the way I think of consciousness making free will choices. I don't see that. I only see the consciousness that is here. Again, all the consciousness, insects, and maybe not all insects are conscious, but some of them probably are. The ones that make choices are. So all of it creates a consciousness here, and that consciousness can have an intent about other things. We can have positive thoughts about what's on the other side of the moon and what's over in Alpha Centauri, and those thoughts may actually change the way that gets rendered. So in a sense, there's connectivity, but not in the sense, in my mind, that the various bodies are conscious in and of themselves, and they're communicating and having little tea parties between them and other things, that they're somehow connected. I don't see that. I think somebody might interpret the collective consciousness of Earth as somehow being Earth's consciousness, but I don't think that's really the case. It's a collective consciousness. It belongs to all the conscious things on it. And that collective consciousness, of course, has a history. So it's all the things, if you go to, like if I go work at IBM, not only do I get the collective consciousness happens to be there just now, but it has history. There's inertia to that, because the people who were there 20 years ago, they changed that culture of that company. They changed that collective consciousness. Now I come after they're gone. Well, that change is still there, you see. So it may take a long time before that change changes. So culture is a collective consciousness. That's just another thing. So all cultures really are collective consciousness. That's what defines a culture. And IBM has a culture just like Finland has a culture. Just like a family might have a culture. So it's a similar thing. So archetypes, cultures, collective consciousness are all kind of talking about the same thing.
Well, I'm just wondering, because if we're thinking about, example, nature are hardwired to each other, like in a forest, those little plants, the trees and so on. And if we're thinking about in bigger picture, that not just in a forest, but in a universum and planets and so on, maybe there is also some kind of connection between the different planets and so on, like hardwired, but we don't know how it could be. But in a nature, there is that kind of connection.
Well, I'm going to have to go.
Yes.
My wife has just recently gotten back from the hospital, and it's about time for me to go do some things for her.
Thank you, Tom. It was very nice to talk with you, and I hope that you will be in a positive mind and don't get caught with COVID.
I will be. I intend to. Okay, it's been good, Tivo.
It has been good.
We'll do it again sometime.
Yes.
So let's see. You better tell your thing to stop recording.
Yeah.
I'll tell mine. I also did a recording of it, so if somehow something happens to yours, you can get one from me.
Okay, let's do that. But from my side, see you someday here.
See you.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.